Live from Columbia, this is Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network. Be a part of tonight's show. Call us at 800-956-7266 or email talkback@sportstalksc.com. Now, here are your hosts for Sports Talk, Phil Kornbluth, Kevin McCrary, and Tom Hayes.
You know where we were at as a program a couple years ago, and fast forward a couple of years, and to be able to go on the road and play a Conference USA opponent and be able to win is a step in the right direction for us.
That's all we got to do is bounce back, shake this off. It's going to hurt a little bit, but we're a good team. We know that.
Do we have to talk basketball so soon? I mean,
yes.
We don't have to really worry about basketball for real until January. I mean, let's face it, none of these games mean anything, anywhere, anytime, any place. And it doesn't matter till they get to conference play. But let's take note of South Carolina's nice win on the road last night at Marshall. And Clemson's up and down season continues with another home loss, this time to Rutgers. And so we start to slide a little bit towards basketball, though our mind is still on football as we try to digest everything coming out of the weekend and the repercussions from the results of the weekend and the way the season played out today. Brady Hollard at Michigan. Florida is out at Colorado State going after Jim McElwain. Clemson names their, well, I guess Chad Morris was so good, it will take two people to replace him.
Can't replace him with one.
As a Jeff Scott and Tony Elliott, the offensive coordinator title at Clemson and share the duties of being the offensive coordinator. So we have got plenty to talk. Good to have you with us. Phil Kornbluth, Kevin McCrary, the professor Tom Hayes here on Sports Talk. Lines are open, 800-956-7266. What do you think about what's been going on today? We'll update some recruiting information for you as well. But I guess the big news around here is the announcement by Dabo Swinney that with Chad Morris gone, he's going to turn to a couple of young guys, a couple of former Tigers, a couple of guys who have been on his staff for a handful of years in Jeff Scott and Tony Elliott. Can it work pro having two doing one job?
Yeah, as long as the two work in practice as a tandem. But one of them is going to have the play calling duties, because if you start a mishmash of opinions flying on those headsets, then that's going to slow Clemson's offense down even further. So I think probably what's going to happen is one will take the reins of a play call on the game day decision, but both will be in the game planning during practice and the meeting.
Well, the only way this works is if you take your egos and put them in your back pocket. They're going, if you're going to work in tandem, there has to be an understanding who the final say is when it comes to making play calls and things of that nature. I would think you have to have one clear voice at the end of the day. The other big news today, the high school league ruled that Bamberg Earhart is okay and will play Christ Church in the 1A Division I state championship game. That will be Friday night, 7 o'clock
in the
at
parking
Benedict
lot.
College. Nope, it'll be at Benedict. Back in a moment. 800-956-7266. Couple of quick thoughts, and we'll get to your phone calls. Again, from Clemson today, the announcement from the Tigers that Dabo Swinney has opted to go with co-offensive coordinators in the coming season. Tony Elliott and Jeff Scott will be those coordinators. Neither is a quarterback's coach. And the person on the staff who had been serving with Chad Morris and sort of his right-hand man and working with the quarterbacks, Joe Craddock, is going with Morris out to SMU to be his offensive coordinator. So that leads to speculation about who the quarterback's coach will be at Clemson. Bobby Bentley's name, again, is being kicked around out there as he is in a non-coaching position at Auburn. The other thing about Bobby Bentley is if you get Bobby Bentley, you get his son, who's a big-time recruit for the 2017 class at quarterback. So that would be kind of a 2-in-1 deal there. I could certainly see that coming to fruition with an opportunity at Clemson to come in and coach the quarterbacks. But it will be dual coordinators, Tony Elliott and Jeff Scott, moving forward with the Tiger offense. Also, as I mentioned, the 1A Division I game is now set at Benedict College. 7 o'clock on Friday night. The high school league completed the investigation of the ineligible player protest against Bamberg Earhart. It's been determined the school is indeed eligible to play in the game. This according to a release from the high school league. Pat Sullivan stepped down today as the coach at Sanford. Former Heisman Trophy winner has been dealing with some health issues. He leaves as that school's all-time winningest coach. He is 64. He'll stay on at the school as a special advisor to the president. Meantime, at Florida, Jeremy Foley is out in Colorado to visit with Jim McElwain. He is at McElwain's house. We have pictures. It's on Twitter, of course. You can't go anywhere without somebody following you on Twitter. So he is actually in the home of Jim McElwain to meet with him and discuss.
That's the whole premise of
Florida
Twitter, to follow people.
Yeah, it's true. This is a little more in detail following. Al Golden is being retained at Miami despite a 6-6 record, 3-5 in the ACC. The AD there says he is not changing football coaches. And UAB has dropped its football program. UAB shutting the door on its football program. Now you will see the vultures starting to circle. They have some talent on that team, and all the players, all the scholarship players are free to transfer without penalty. If you need a quarterback for one season, hint, 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 Cody Clements, 6'2", 195, junior quarterback at UAB, one of the top passers in Conference USA this season. Started his career at Washington State. Actually started at a junior college, then went to Washington State, then came to UAB. So he's got some travel miles on him.
Jeff George Light.
But apparently he's a talent.
Yeah, this last one's not his fault.
No, not his fault. They're shutting down the program. Yeah. But going into the last game of the season, he had thrown for 2,051 yards, 11 touchdowns, and 8 interceptions. You know, if you're South Carolina and you're looking at a situation where you don't have a quarterback ready, and they don't, you might get a stud quarterback in the 2016 class, which they might. This could be a bridge for you. And he's there if you have room for him, and he's there for the taking because there's no penalty. He could come in and play right away. You get him in school in January, go through spring ball. I'm not sure that Spurrier would jump on something like that.
Offense, the type that he throws at a guy, it looks like a guy would be flooded with Spurrier trying to get a quick fix. Yeah,
getting back there and letting it go. And he's never done that. I mean, Steve Spurrier has never in his career that I know of brought in a guy and just threw him right in there. I mean, whether it's a true freshman, usually you have to be around his system for a year or two. And South Carolina's kind of limited in what they can do. The SEC has made it clear that you can't bring in graduate guys. So, you know, if Gamecock fans want to dream about a guy like Braxton Miller, who's apparently on the market again now, and Florida State might get him, or Oregon, no SEC school can bring in a guy like that.
So Braxton Miller's not interested in finishing up his career at Ohio State?
Well, it depends on what you believe that's floating out there. I mean, there's been reports linking him to Oregon and went to Florida State because, until this injury, Ohio State has a guy now that's done very well.
Exactly.
All right, 800-956-7266. Let's get to the phones here. What's on your mind tonight? We're a little bit more open. I mean, we'll still talk about USC Clemson, the football season past, what's ahead. We'll take your recruiting calls. It's that time of year now here in December. Coaches are on the road. Good time to talk recruiting. Of course, we feel like we can talk recruiting with anybody and would love to hear from you. Your recruiting comments or questions are certainly welcome. 800-956-7266. Let's go to Delvin in Fountain Inn for the first call tonight here on Sports Talk. Hello, Delvin. How are you?
I'm doing great. How you guys doing this evening?
So far, so good, but it's early.
What y'all think about the decision that Dalvin made, hiring two corners, making two offensive coordinators? I think he did that because I think one of them coaches was going to leave. I think he had to make that decision. I think one of the coaches, they got the name and title. Who you think is going to be the play caller? In your guys' opinion, this where you came at the professional. Who you think is going to be calling the plays? I know they could probably set the game plan up, but who you think will be calling the plays?
As an outside observer with no inside information, my guess is Jeff Scott. Mm-hmm. My guess is Jeff Scott would be the more dominant. I think he's had more, as again an outside observer, I think he's had more offensive responsibilities. Plus, he's recruiting coordinator. I think he's maybe a little more involved in things. I think he's been a little closer to Dabo. I would think he would be the guy. Plus, he was a quarterback in high school. Didn't play. Let's see. Yeah, he was a quarterback in college and a quarterback in high school.
And like Chad Morris, he was a high school head football coach.
Yeah, so that's what I would think. Mm-hmm. Do I like it? I don't dislike it. I don't like it. I'm not crazy about it.
But I mean, the thing about these titles now, you can't.
But it has worked.
Yeah, you can't get into the titles.
Yeah,
because they have to do that to get money to people. So when they go to the board of trustees, the board wants a title. That's why at South Carolina, even when Ellis Johnson was there, Lorenzo Ward was a quote unquote defensive coordinator, and Ellis Johnson was the assistant head coach over defense. But we all know who was calling the plays on defense.
Yeah, I agree with you guys because we're seeing the work right now at TCU. Doug Meacham and Sonny Cummings, the offensive coordinator, but it's been calling plays, and it's going on at Duke too. They got a co-offensive coordinator. You see it go around in college. Like K-Man said, it's a title to give them more money. That's what I think it is, to give them more money. But I think you're gonna see one guy call play like. I also. And I think it's gonna be key who you get as recruiting coordinator now, because Jeff Scott was recruiting coordinator. I think it'll be key who you get as a recruiting coordinator and your quarterback coach.
He could keep that title.
He'll retain that title.
He could
conceivably
keep that title. That's
you're an offensive coordinator. They want you focused on.
Yeah, that is a lot.
Yeah.
And keep in mind, he has been groomed by Chad Morris. He knows the offense, so the offense can be the same. The one thing that you can't teach, though, and it doesn't mean that Jeff Scott won't be great at this, it's just getting into that zone of calling plays, of seeing things, getting a feel for things. You talk to offensive coaches, and they tell you it's like a pitcher that finds the groove, or a basketball player that's hot, and you just get you settle in. And I was told there was times that Chad Morris would tell all the coaches, "Don't say anything in my headset right now.
Right.
I'm on. Let's just keep going. Just keep listening to me," and then off they would go.
All right, thanks for the call. 800-956-7266. Quick Braves baseball note here.
They didn't trade somebody else, did they?
Not yet, but they did not offer contracts for 2015 to Chris Medlin, Brandon Beachy, Gus Schlosser. So they are now free agents. All right, we'll take more calls in a moment. Don't want to squeeze one in here, so hang on, folks. We'll get to you in just a second.
I will say this also. Don't think this was a snap judgment decision. Dabo had this lined up. As soon as Chad Morris leaves, this is what I'm going to do.
Well, sure.
So don't believe that, he did. And I think he was thinking also of not only Jeff Scott, but thinking about how do I keep these young guys who can recruit so well around me. So you want to do two things when you look at it. You talk about Bill Parcells saying, at least let me pick the groceries. Well, you got guys calling plays who also help you pick the groceries. So that's how you take care of it.
All right, more calls coming up. 800-956-7266, plus a lot in the email box. We'll get to that, too, here on Sports Talk. Where are your friends in this business when you need them? Darren Ravel from ESPN has broken down the cost per win for Pelini, Hoke, and Muschamp. Pelini, $386,000 he made per win. Hoke, $559,000, and Muschamp, $689,000.
What was sad about the situation is Brady Hoke had a decent deal where he could keep his job for a while because the expectations were low at San Diego State. And you're in San Diego, for goodness sake. And you go to your alma mater in a little nippy, chilly Ann Arbor, about 30 miles west of Detroit, and you end up getting fired when you had a nice little cushy thing going in San Diego.
All right, back to the phones, and we go next to Billy in Greenville. Hi, Billy. Welcome into Sports Talk.
Yeah, just a couple things. Any kind of scuttlebutt y'all hearing about the defensive coaches at USC, what Spurrier wants to do?
Well, there's a lot of scuttlebutt out there. What's fact and what's fiction is hard to differentiate between the two right now. So he is obviously in no hurry to make any kind of a knee-jerk reaction move. He may be just waiting for things to kind of settle down, see who he might be able to bring in. Muschamp, if that's a possibility. If Muschamp wants to come. Yeah, but I'm saying if you're Spurrier and you want to – if you care about the future of the program, and you think Muschamp, and you obviously like him as a person, and you believe that he's a guy coach at a place like South Carolina could excel, and you've got a chance to bring him under your wings for a couple, 3 years, then turn the program over to him, then you have to make some adjustments on your staff to make that happen.
I think he would. I just don't know. I think Muschamp, there's too many other people that are after him too. And I think if Spurrier knew he could land him, he wouldn't say, I'm okay. Our defense is okay. We had some struggles. I think he would take them in a heartbeat, but so would Auburn and Texas A&M, and they're going to throw a pile of cash at him. And they have, unlike South Carolina, they actually have vacancies. And if Will Muschamp wants to become a head coach again, I mean, let's face it, it's hard to it would be a clearer path for them at Auburn probably, or Texas A&M,
because that's his second alma mater. I know he went to Georgia, but he's been to Auburn so many times. I think the people love it at Auburn. I think, Billy, also, if you're a defensive coach anywhere, you got to be thinking about, well, wait a minute, Spurrier's going to hire me at South Carolina, but I don't know. It's a year-to-year thing with this guy, even though he says 2 or 3 years. I don't know when Spurrier's going to step down.
I think if Muschamp, if that were to happen, and you might be right, but if that were to happen, I think Spurrier would make him at least a 3-year commitment and say, I'm going to be here for 3 more years for sure. Let's see if we can get that defense turned around. Let me develop a good young quarterback or 2. We get it back in good shape, and then you'll have every opportunity to be the next guy.
Muschamp, I think his goal probably is to be a head coach again within 2 to 3 years, to go somewhere, have a great defense. And that's why if he went to Auburn and they went to the championship game next year, he might be able to get a job after next year. But if he went to South Carolina and they had a top 10 defense for 3 years,
don't you think it's hard to be a good defensive coordinator at a place like Auburn?
I think anywhere now it's hard to be a good defensive coordinator with the offenses and the rules. It's hard to play defense.
All right, more calls coming up. we're back at Sports Talk South Carolina Radio Network from downtown Columbia, Main Street. Sports Talk, your sports talk show of Main Street, South Carolina. Good to have you with us here every night. Your final word in sports in South Carolina. Don't forget, should you ever lose us over the airwaves, you can get us on our website a couple of ways. We have the audio feed at the top of the page. We have the video feed at the bottom of the page. Those of you with iHeartRadio, a couple of our affiliates are available there. WGVL up in Greenville, WSEA in Myrtle Beach. So there are ways to find us in case you need us. You can't find us. Back to your calls, 800-956-7266. Randy in Lancaster, you're up next here on Sports Talk. Good evening.
Good evening. How you doing?
Great. How are you?
Good. I just want to shift over to the NFL second.
Mm-hmm.
The 49ers with their head coach. I heard he might be gone this year after the season.
To Michigan.
I mean, he had him to a Super Bowl championship against Seattle. They're in the playoff race. Is it a problem with the front office or what? What's the problem out there? I'll hang up and let you comment.
All right, thank you for the call. Yeah, I think that there has been a major separation between Harbaugh and the ownership in San Francisco. Remember, it was before this past season where there were reports that he was talking to some other people about another job, and he was denying it, and so that kind of put people on edge. And now there's been some backlash coming from some of the front office people. The GM's daughter took to Twitter and blasted him after their most recent loss. People are starting to see things come a little bit ungly, a change in San Francisco after this season. I just think the atmosphere there right now is not conducive to overall success.
Well, I will say this, that there's two main reasons they're not where they are, because I don't care if a coach is a blithering idiot. If they're winning, yeah, there'll be some complaints, but not that many. Colin Kaepernick has not improved. If anything, he's retrogressed. Somebody's gotten a page on him, and they know how to take away the things he likes to do. But the bigger thing in San Francisco, Phil, is Patrick Willis is injured. And when you don't have that bell cow on defense, that whole San Francisco defense struggles. I don't care how good their pass rush is. Patrick Willis sets the tone for that 49er defense, and they have not been the same since he's gone down.
Thanks for your call, 800-956-7266. Let me also mention, if you lose us over the airways, our very, very good friend at WKDK in Newberry, Jimmy Coggins, they have their own app for Androids and iPhones.
All right.
So you can find us through the WKDK app on your smartphone or your iPhone. Download that. It's free and very handy and very usable. And you get to listen to the great Jimmy Coggins when he's on the radio. What a nice, smooth voice he has. Sounds a lot like his dad.
He was inducted into the Hall of Fame, the Newberry Hall of Fame recently.
I'm sure he was very deserving of that.
Yeah.
I'm sure that's the first of many Hall of Fames to come his way. That should be Halls of Fame, not Hall of Fames. Halls of Fame, because he's at that age. And he's well on down the road.
I don't think I'll ever have to worry about the pluralization of Hall of Fame in my life.
Oh, you never know, kid.
Never know.
You're in the Kidney Givers Hall of Fame?
I don't think so. I don't even think I'm one of the top. I don't even think I'm in the top.
I'm in the
yeah, Hall of Shame, halls of shame.
A lot of times I'm in the Hall of Blame. 800-956-7266. Mike in Manning. Hello, sir. Welcome into Sports Talk.
Hey guys, thanks for taking my call.
Sure.
Hey, I just want you guys to address something for a minute. I'm talking about the injury to the young man Watson up there in Clemson. Guys, hey, I've been doing a little research on this thing. I have looked at almost every sport that you can look at, where people have talked about everything from professional bodybuilding to professional football to golf to everything, even non-contact sports. And everyone is saying that if you play a contact sport with a torn ACL, you're a fool, and the person who advises or the doctor who advises that, they're bigger fools. So I'm just wondering how in the world, okay, Clemson got away with it, and I'm not a Sour Grapes Carolina fan, I'm just saying Clemson got away with him taking risk of him playing Carolina. How in the world, Phil, are you guys, are Dabo and these coaches going to play this kid in a bowl game or possibly put him out there when his knee is at risk? An ACL injury, guys, that is a big no. That's just a part of a body. I think it comes second close to the spine. If you have a spine or a neck injury, big no. The ACL is next. And I would just like you guys to kind of comment on your thoughts on that. Love your show. I'll hang up and listen.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate it very much. I don't know. Again, and we're all going to say this when we talk about this. We're not doctors, okay? And I don't know the first thing about the workings of the knee. Thank goodness I think all my ligaments and cartilage are still in place.
I got a weird gait.
That's for something else.
Oh, well.
But, I'll say this. There are plenty of examples historically, and I can cite Clemson, and there are others, where players have played ACL and been just fine. Mike Epley, who started at point guard and quarterback at Clemson, played with no ACL or torn ACL. Taj Boyd, his senior year in high school, tore his ACL, played in the All-American game that year. And those are just a couple of examples. I know there's probably dozens, but I'm sure there are examples of guys doing it and being hurt further. So I'm sure it's a balancing act that could go both ways.
Stop right there because it's interesting you say that. Taj Boyd and Mike Epley were more of a little bit more stockier build than Deshaun Watson. And I keep in mind when I look at Deshaun Watson and think of a young Tiger Woods and the torque they put in their joints in their respective sports because of their builds. I'm not so certain that it's the ACL. It's the ACL plus what kind of build the person has. I think it's a choice. But I think if the parents are consulted, the players consulted, the coaches consulted, the doctors consulted, and they all nod their heads.
It is his choice. It's his knee. He's going to have to walk around on that the rest of his life after he's done at Clemson. And I would think that they did their due diligence and talk to more than just the Clemson doctors, and they realize what's at stake. And definitely you have to, regardless if you're Clemson or if you're Watson, you have to be cautious because he hurt his left knee his senior year in high school. He has hurt it twice now at Clemson, two separate times. He hurt it at Georgia Tech and then again about a week later in practice. So they have to be careful with that knee. And certainly when they repair it, maybe they can get it back to full strength. You look at Adrian Peterson, guys come back from these injuries. Back when Epley and some of these other guys were doing it, they had to. Joe Namath played with one that was messed up because at the time there wasn't James Andrews there to fix it. Sayers retired when he was 28 years old because nobody knew how to fix an ACL at that time. So you just kind of muscled through it. I do defer to the Clemson coaching staff and doctors because they know more about it than us. But I don't think it's illegitimate to say, maybe he should go ahead and get that thing cleaned up, get it ready, get it rehabbed, then come back as strong as he can in the summer. Why put it out there and risk it for a bowl game? You get it for South Carolina. Nobody knew it was torn. You went out there and he had a heroic performance. But why roll the dice again?
You mean nobody on the outside knew?
Yeah, nobody on the outside knew. Yeah. But I mean, now that everybody knows and it's out, I mean, this is time that he could be getting better. That's just my opinion.
Let me send you to our website, sportstalksc.com. We have a new poll question up after the Clemson announced what they were doing with the OC. We changed our poll question, which is, should Deshaun Watson have his surgery now or after the bowl game? And the early returns are saying have the surgery now. 64%, almost 65% say have the surgery now.
I don't know. I don't have knowledge of this, Phil. Maybe you or Kay might have. But the other important thing to realize in this whole equation is when and if Deshaun Watson is eligible to get an insurance policy against a catastrophic injury. Is he not eligible now? You have to wait to your junior year or what?
I'd have to look that up. I'm not sure. That's a good question. Thank you for your phone call and your comments. We'll be right back. More of your calls here on Sports Talk. More of your calls coming up here on Sports Talk. Let's give you the recruiting report for tonight, brought to you by South Carolina's Electric Cooperatives, sponsors of the 2014 Touchstone Energy Bowl. Hope to see you there when the best high school football players from the South take on their counterparts from the North, December 13th, a week from Saturday in Myrtle Beach. That kickoff time will be at 12:30. Airtime here on our network will be at high noon. All right, first of all, Albert Huggins, who's a Shrine Bowler, he will announce his decision December 12th at his school. That has been finalized. Wide receiver Darius Slayton, oh, by the way, it's Clemson in Georgia. Wide receiver Darius Slayton from Norcross, Georgia, plans to make his decision known on Thursday around noon when he receives his U.S. Army All-American game jersey at his school. That is, unless he's not able to make his decision by then. But according to his coach, Tim Hardy, he said that is the plan, to make the announcement on Thursday. They're still in the playoffs, and if he doesn't have it done by then it won't be until next week because he doesn't want anything interfering with playoff preparation. USC recruiter G.A. Mangus was by to see Slayton on Monday. Auburn also was in yesterday. Mark Richt was to be in today along with Tennessee. And his coach, Coach Hardy, said all four schools are still in it. And he said he has not given him any indication as to a favorite. Penn State lost one of its top commitments last week, defensive end Adam McLean of North Potomac, Maryland. Before committing to the Nittany Lions in April, he had Clemson and USC on his list. He actually visited USC in February. He has ties to both schools. He's friendly with Clemson linebacker Darian O'Daniel and with USC commitment Jalen Christian. Now that he's back on the market, the Tigers and Gamecocks are back on his mind. In fact, they are part of his short list. Also includes Ole Miss and Washington State. He's heard recently from both. He said he's going to try to get to one of the schools sometime in the next few weeks. He's not sure which one yet or when, but he's working with the coaches, Mike Reed and G.A. Mangus. He made an official visit to Washington State last weekend. He also plans to take an official to Ole Miss. And again, he said Clemson and USC also look strong for visits. Coaches from Southern Cal were to meet with tight end Chris Clark of Ridgewood, New Jersey today. Clark announced a decommitment from Michigan about a half hour ago. He has said he will take his officials to USC, Southern Cal, Texas, North Carolina, and UCLA. He was at North Carolina where he was once committed last weekend. Defensive tackle Christian Wilkins, who goes to school up in Connecticut. Stanford has been in to see him. Boston College was to be in today, and Clemson is scheduled to be in on Thursday. Punter Sean Kelly of Winter Garden, Florida, hopes to hear something from USC by the middle of the month about his eligibility to transfer. He is Tallahassee Junior College. He said last night he's just waiting to see which of his credits USC will accept and if that will be enough to get him in. But he has not yet totally decided on USC because he's still considering his options with Florida State. And Alabama was by to see junior receiver Samuel Denmark of Hanahan last week. Linebacker coach Kevin Steele was by to see him actually a couple of weeks ago. And Steele told him that they checked out his film. They like what they see. They like his size. And he's going to try to get to Alabama for a visit. He has offers from Virginia Tech and Wake Forest, and he went to Blacksburg for the first time back in November. Not claiming a favorite right now, but he does like Virginia Tech a lot. He does not have any visit plan set right now for Clemson or USC. There you go with recruiting, and don't forget during this critical time of year for recruiting, you can check our information out online at our website, sportstalksc.com, and on Twitter, you can follow us there. Use the symbol pound. I call it pound. Who came up with the name hashtag? I mean, all these hundreds of years, that symbol's been known as the pound symbol. Now, all of a sudden,
I think
in this new era, it's become the hashtag.
Yeah, I think they just wanted to be differentiated.
Pound ST recruiting. Is that okay with you, K-Mac?
That's fine with me.
Hashtag.
Pound.
Whatever you want to say, Corn.
ST. Well, I mean, that's the way we used to call it. Nothing wrong with the way we used to call it. Pound ST recruiting, or for you newbies, hashtag ST recruiting will take you right to the recruiting information on Twitter. Anything we can help you with there, K-Mac? You ordering a pizza? Or?
Yes.
Yeah.
Ordering a pizza, looking at my hashtags or my pound signs.
All right, we'll come back and take more. Steak Man, what do you think? Would you go with hashtag or would you go with pound?
I'm actually looking that up right now. So give me out of this break and I'll let you know what the answer is.
He's looking it up.
He's looking it
you
up.
Have to look it up.
Did you know Mick Mixon has a Wikipedia page? I noticed that last night. I didn't realize he was that popular to have a Wikipedia
Every
page.
NFL announcer has a Wikipedia page.
All right, more calls coming up here on Sports Talk 800-956-7266. Brought to you by South Carolina soybean farmers and their checkoff. Learn more at scsoybeans.org. Pork powered by soy. So what do you think about Clemson's new offensive coordinator coaching configuration? Two-headed monster, Scott and Elliott. Is that going to fly? Is that going to work? And we were also talking about some of the other coaching moves around the country, and of course, what if anything Steve Spurrier is going to do with South Carolina? End up doing nothing at all. We shall see. All right, back to your calls we go, and it's Tiger Bryan in Lancaster time. Hello, TB.
How you doing, brother? I'm gonna tell you something, man. Hey, I heard y'all guys talking about the Hall of Shame. None of y'all guys. All y'all guys are jam up on the state of South Carolina football and recruiting. I mean, ain't no Hall of Shame for nobody on that crew you got, my brother.
Well, we thank you for that, and you're number one with us as well. You're pound number one with us. Pound one.
Hey, I tell you what, I ain't heard this. I mean, y'all done a great job out over. I mean, I know it's recruiting and everything. Hey, what about the high school state championship this weekend?
Which one?
All of them. You know what I mean?
Should be good. Should be some good games. I mean, look at what Dutch Fork did to Burns. They're going to face a Johnny-come-lately when it comes to championship games in Hillcrest. But Hillcrest is hungry, trying to prove themselves. And they lost to Dutch Fork in the playoffs a couple of years ago as they were just starting to emerge under Coach Greg Porter. They went a little farther last year, and now they get a chance to take on the big enchilada in Dutch Fork. That should be a good game. Division II, York and Spartanburg. Enough said there. Bobby Carroll, Chris Miller, two great coaches. And the three matchup, we've got South Point against Hartsville, traditional powers. And, of course, now the 1A game is on. 1A Division I will be Friday night. Christchurch looking to win again and extend their winning streak to what's it, about 54 or so? 54, 55?
Is it in the 50s or 60s?
No, it's in the 50s.
Yeah.
Hadn't reached the 60s yet.
Yeah, it's going there.
Christchurch and Bamberg Earhart. Should be a lot of fun. Hope you can be there. One ticket on Saturday gets you into all three games. Really one of the best tickets in sport. All right. We have got the new rankings coming up from the College Football Playoff Committee.
TCU.
You think TCU gets number 4?
Yeah, the other three state team and TCU
jumps in there. What do you think?
Yeah, TCU will be the new team. I would say replacing Mississippi State. Still a lot will change this weekend. Florida State, Georgia Tech. That would just throw everything off.
Missouri,
what would
Alabama.
really throw things into a flux is if this committee at Florida State that started meeting today to investigate Jameis Winston and the claims against him stands up and says you're out. What would that do?
I saw him carrying rubber stamps.
Live from Columbia, this is Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network. Be a part of tonight's show. Call us at 800-956-7266 or email talkback@sportstalksc.com. Now, here are your hosts for Sports Talk, Phil Kornbluth, Kevin McCrary, and Tom Hayes.
Clemson is 18th in the new college football playoff ranking, just released. We haven't gotten to the top 4 yet, but Clemson is at number 18. Did you see, had they gotten to Georgia Tech yet?
Yeah, Georgia Tech is, I think, 11.
Here's the question from a Clemson standpoint. If Georgia Tech gets blown out by Florida State, would they fall far enough down the list that Clemson could move past and get to the Orange Bowl?
That would be a hard drop because they lost to Georgia Tech head-to-head. I think that would be a tough.
That's the only way.
Move.
The team, let's say Florida State wins and goes on, the highest ranked ACC team after the team that goes to the playoff goes to the Orange Bowl.
Yeah, and it's hard to believe unless Florida State just blew out Georgia Tech like a drum.
But do you penalize a team for losing in its conference championship game? So they don't penalize teams for losing in their basketball tournaments.
They do.
You can lose in your conference basketball tournament championship game and still be a top seed.
They do. That's why they were.
Well, that's not right.
They put a lot of weight on conference championships.
That's why people complain about the Big 12 may have an advantage in some circles.
If you're in that game, you have a chance to be in the top 4. If you're not, you probably don't. There aren't many teams outside of the top 4 that aren't playing for a conference championship or haven't won a conference championship. Nobody's punched their ticket right now. All 4 of those top teams have work to do.
All right, Alabama is once again number 1. We'll give you the other picks as we move along. Let's get back to our phone calls as we go to Jim in Greenville. Hi, Jim. Welcome to Sports Talk.
Thanks for taking my call, Phil.
Sure, and Oregon is number 2, Jim.
Okay. All right. Hey, all those Gamecock fans kept saying that Clemson hadn't beaten anybody, that all the teams they had beaten were equivalent to high school teams. I wonder if they realize that now equates South Carolina to a high school team.
It certainly would with that definition. By the way, TCU is number 3.
So Florida State has dropped to number 4, I would imagine.
Number 4.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying there, Jim.
FSU meltdown.
Gamecock fans have to separate Clemson from the rest of the ACC when it comes to dealing with them. They just can't rely on the tired old argument that because they play in the ACC, they're not up to their level. I think they've proven that time and again that's not the case.
And I think that's just fan speak. I mean, any good football fan see have some flaws, but Louisville and Boston College, you don't want to play them at any point in a season because they can jump up and bite you. Just ask Florida State about that.
Anything else, sir?
Yeah. They also said, the ACC is nothing but a high school league, and I guess the great SEC was 0-4 against the ACC this past week.
The SEC East, or the SEC Least, as they call it.
Yeah, as I said before, how much credit does the ACC get for doing that? Nothing. Just like the SEC didn't get credit for having 2 teams in the Final Four last year.
All right, Florida State gets the number 4 spot. Ohio State is number 5, and Baylor, which beat TCU. Baylor is number 6. Back in a moment. Okay, we're back. 800-956-7266. So the top 4 teams, as of just a little while ago, are now set for one more week. Of course, the final 4 will be announced on Sunday afternoon, and then following that, they'll announce the bowl games. They'll do the ones. They'll announce the ones that the committee, those slots the committee is filling, and then they'll get to the other bowl games farther down the line, and that will include games involving Clemson and South Carolina. Entirely different way of doing things now. The behind the closed doors deal making is all a thing of the past now. The conferences are putting teams in slots, trying to regionalize as best as possible, keep them as close to home to improve the travel, get more people to go. In some cases, rewarding a team for a good season that deserves it, but we also know it will come down in many cases to a team that can bring the most fans will get a spot over maybe a more deserving team.
But that also means that the fan base is excited. If the fan base is not excited, and they usually bring people, they won't bring people anyway.
I think bowl games should be like promoters, and they should be able to create a matchup possible that they can. I think if we want to make the bowl games more interesting and make people care again about games that, let's face it, are and always have been exhibition games.
Yeah, that's what they are.
Let's have matchups that people want to see. Let's put teams together that we want to watch play. Let's not just say, well, this is just how it worked. We're going to have this 6-6 team play this 6-6 team. Does anybody want to watch South Carolina play Cincinnati and Birmingham?
Probably not.
How many people are going to be at that game?
Members of the UAB football team.
Yeah, they're going to be there scouting.
Because they'll be saying, hey, y'all need a quarterback? I'm available.
Is he hurt? I got some eligibility.
I'm available. Hey, look, I'm telling you, go back to you. If you need a quarterback, Cody Clements, and also they have a running back who's a junior. These guys can transfer now without penalty. Their top running back is a guy by the name of, I just was looking at him here. He's had a great year, one of the top running backs in their league. Jordan Howard. He's a sophomore, so he'll be a junior. Going into the last game, 1,325 yards, 12 touchdowns. He's 6'1", 224. So need a running back, need a quarterback. And they, UAB had a 500 record this year. They were bowl eligible, so they've got some players. All right, back to the phones we go. And Billy and Florence, you're up next here on Sports Talk. Couple lines have opened up now. If you want to join us after Billy, you can do so. Billy, go right ahead.
Hey, guys. Hope you're doing well. First of all, Phil, a lot of people like to criticize Dabo as far as his decisions and so forth. The coordinators and this and that. I heard he couldn't beat South Carolina. It looks like he's going to be doing that for a while. I know he's 2-5 now, but he did become coach when South Carolina was at their best.
Yeah, let me ask you, how long of a streak do you think Clemson's going to build here now? They got one. How many in a row do you think Clemson will win?
Realistically, I don't think they'll beat Deshaun Watson. I think Deshaun will be 3 and done. I mean, I'm speaking as a realist.
Yeah.
I don't think. I think the talent level. I mean, South Carolina's had top 15, around the top 18, classes according to various websites. And I'm a big. Let's face it, the Jimmys and Joes win it. Just ask Florida State and Alabama. And they do. I mean, they really, really do.
Well, Billy, that's why I'm worried about. You saw what South Carolina happened when they had their defensive line studs leave, and now Clemson's line has to be rebuilt.
Well, Phil can probably he's probably more of a recruiting junkie than I am. I just followed on my phone.
Tigers are going to lose. Here's what you lose off your line. You're going to lose Corey Crawford and Vic Beasley, your two ends, and Tavares Barnes, your backup. You're going to lose Deshaun Williams at defensive tackle and Grady Jarrett at nose guard. You lose your entire starting defensive front and a backup. Now, Shaq Lawson will step right in. He's a stud already. DJ nose guard. Carlos Watkins, I believe, is back. So he'll step in. Kevin Dodd, they'll be counting on him. But now you got to have some young guys like Ebo. You got to get him going, stepping up. Scott Pagano, you got to bring him along. They like Dane Rogers. Jabril Robinson was a freshman this year. You bring him along. But, much like don't be fooled like so many people were over at South Carolina thinking that replacing those big-time players will be easy.
It's not going to be easy. Yeah, but and they're going to take a little bit of a step back. I don't think they're going to take the kind of step back that South Carolina
not
did.
to mention
they lost their Stephon Anthony.
Yeah,
I mean, Tony Stewart.
Yeah.
So you're going to have some different guys there. But
Ben Boulware's already get significant playing time. Also redshirted, and that's what I was stepping into. I appreciate you guys kind of pulling me into this to save some time. Corey Rogers was the third-rated inside linebacker in the country, and I'm just basing on speculations. But I'm gonna let you comment on this, and I'll take it off the air. Clemson redshirted a lot of that great class that they out-recruited South Carolina again, which they do from accumulation about 4 out of every 5 years if you go by various websites. They're going to most likely, I hope, even if they don't get Christian Wilkins or Andre Huggins, they'll out-recruit them again. And South Carolina got a heavy class based on the non-qualifiers that didn't get in, and they're counting on a lot of these guys. Well, the thing is Clemson is going to have a better class this year, according to the website, rivals ESPN 24/7, however you want to take it. And they also redshirted redshirted a lot of the class that they brought in last year that they out-recruited South Carolina. And my question that you feel is, with the depth, the Clemson ran a 10, 11-man rotation on the defensive line? I mean, with the various barns. My question to you is, the talent gap widen a lot, or just maybe a 5-star here or a couple 4-stars there? Because next year, you, Tech, and K-Mac, and the professor could run the offense with the kids that's coming in with Deion Kane and Ray McLeod coming in on top, or Tavis Scott and Wayne Gallman that just blasted the Gamecocks. And Deshaun Watson, which is a true freshman, and then, and Bryant and Tucker Israel. I mean, it's loaded. It's Ray McLeod, and you know it. And my question to you, and I'll take it off there, Phil.
Yeah.
Is how wide do you think the talent gap is between Clemson and South Carolina, just to sum it up? And I'm going to take it off.
All right, thank you. Well, if you're going to compare 2015 teams, I think South Carolina on the defensive side, simply because of attrition on Clemson's side and the fact that the Gamecocks return most of their players on defense, probably narrows a little bit. And I like some of the incoming players South Carolina has on the defensive side who will play right away, assuming they get in, like Dexter Wideman, like Dante Sawyer. Those guys should help South Carolina right away. Montravius Lewis will be an immediate starter, should be a big-time contributor for them at defensive end. The Gamecocks off their defense, so this is one of those good news, bad news situations. Everybody's back almost, and maybe that's bad news. But, they lose J.T. Surratt off their defensive front, but everybody else is back. Their linebackers pretty much return in total. Their secondary, they lose Bryson Williams. He graduates. They lose Go Lightly.
Yeah.
They lose Go Lightly. That's about it as far as
they have to retool
losses.
their defensive line. That's where the Gamecocks were really in trouble. The back end, I think it was lack of experience. But if you don't have a pass rush, you're dead in the water. You're just not going to be able to do anything without a pass rush.
When you looked at that game Saturday, South Carolina had receivers open. But guess what? Defensive line didn't allow Dylan the time to see it. That's why I said, if you're going to be good, if I had to be a good and struggling at one place, I'd rather struggle in the secondary and have a stout defensive line.
And Clemson's going to be really good on the back end next year too, because
and they will have.
And I think that was their weakness this year. If you could get a little bit of time, you could hit a deep pass. Mackenzie Alexander's going to be a shutdown corner. You got J-Ron Curse, the freak 2-0, as I like to call him. Very good player back there at the safety spot there. Lose Peters, but they have some guys that can step in there and be good in that second.
Because I don't think that defensive line is going to be as effective.
No, they will. They'll take a step back there. There's no way they're going to be on par losing their front seven.
All right, we'll hit a break. More of your calls coming up here on Sports Talk. You're listening to Sports Talk around the states on the South Carolina Radio Network, presented by South Carolina soybean farmers and their checkoff. Learn more at soybeans.org. Pork powered by soy. All right, let's get back to your phone calls, 800-956-7266. Ronnie in North Augusta. How are you, sir? Good to have you with us tonight.
Hey, Phil, how you guys doing tonight?
We're doing great, Ronnie. How are you?
I sure am glad Spurrier didn't get a chance to listen to Billy before he decided whether to come back or not.
Yeah, Billy seems pretty convinced that the Tigers are going to hold the upper hand here for a little while.
How wide is that talent gap? That's
pretty wide. It looks Saturday. Let me ask you something. I've been out of town all day, and I got one of my Clemson buddies, and I'm telling you, he's a nice fella. He's nice enough. He's called me about every hour since the game ended, just in case I forget anything that happened. And he told me that Dabo held a news conference today. Dabo got tired of hearing about the playing Deshaun Watson. He said Dabo held a news conference today and said that with the doctor, he talked to the doctor. They said, well, if you play in South Carolina, if he makes it down the hill, he's safe because they ain't hitting their damn body all year. Is that true?
Well, I think the part about making it down the hill and not having anything to worry about was pretty true. I don't think he had a news conference, but I do believe
he didn't run down the hill, though.
We were talking about this earlier. I do believe that if they were playing a more fearsome defense and one that they were really concerned about, they might not have played.
No, if that would have been last year's South Carolina defense with Clowney and Chaz Sutton and Kelsey Quarles, no. I mean, they knew, go back and watch that game, they knew they could stand him back there, not call any of the design runs, and let him throw the ball around and be safe. And, they knew South Carolina had no pass rush. The last call, he talked about Gallman, and Gallman, he rushed for 200 yards. The Gamecocks, how many guys against South Carolina had a career day? JoJo Kemp's of Kentucky. Kentucky didn't win another game after they beat South Carolina. Kemp's, they couldn't stop him. And I think he finished with somebody told me he had less than 100 yards after the South Carolina
Texas
game.
A&M
The next
quarterback.
6.
Let's name him. Texas A&M quarterback.
Yeah, who didn't finish this season as a starter.
Kentucky
made him
running
a star.
back.
JoJo Kemp's made him a star.
Artavis Scott.
Artavis Scott and Gallman. Gallman didn't even, he wasn't
days.
even the big running back going into the game. It was die.
The interesting thing about that whole situation is, Roddy, I thought they retrogressed because I look at body language. I don't look at if it's a big play or whatever. I look at body language. South Carolina's body was totally different than the defense I saw in the Swamp. It was totally different. I mean, even after a big play in the Swamp, they got up, okay, right, we'll stop you there. Then the head started to hang down in Death Valley. All of a sudden, to retrogress in that football game. But that was one surprise I saw. That was it.
All right, thanks for your phone call.
800-956-7266.
What was that again now?
14 yards was his game high after the South Carolina game where he rushed for 200.
Oh, I got you. Yeah. That was his game high after the USC game? Wow. 800-956-7266. Just taking a look at John Whittle from the Big Spur, and he's written an update on USC and their bowls, and says it's for South Carolina an either-or situation, either Birmingham or Shreveport. He says the Gamecocks are out of Charlotte. The Belk Bowl has moved on. They don't want a team that finished on a sour note. They don't want a team where the fan base will only come in for a day, go to the game, and go home, da-da-da-da, thinking maybe Tennessee there. Now they're thinking either Birmingham or Shreveport. I'm thinking maybe left out in the cold at 6-6.
Thinking or hoping?
Or thinking that they may
I don't
turn
want to say
it down.
hoping. That would not be
enjoy that
trek.
trek. Enjoy Christmas in Shreveport.
They
for
can't
him.
turn
Look at
down
all the
the
hot
bowl bid,
spots.
can they?
There are 12 bowl eligible teams in the SEC right now, and the SEC, once they fill the championship playoff contending team, which will be Alabama, and then they fill in the next upper tier bowl games, there may not be enough spots to get to number 12. We're talking the SEC would have 1, 2, let's see. Wait a minute, that's the wrong one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 bowl spots that are not conditional. They got a couple of bowl spots that are conditional based on some other things. Now, then again, you could take a 6-6 SEC team that didn't go into an SEC slot, and if another bowl has a need for a team, put them in there. But, you know, there could be 2 or 3 SEC teams at 6-6 in Florida, which is 6-5, sitting there with maybe only 1 or 2 bowl spots to fill. And with South Carolina be that team left out? Is that entirely possible?
I mean, I think if it came down to South Carolina or Florida, South Carolina would go, given Florida's
4-4
situation
in the
right
league, 6-5 versus South Carolina 6-6, 3-5. USC beat them head to head. But that doesn't matter to the bowl
No,
people.
head-to-head stuff doesn't matter. It's who's going to bring a crowd.
Records don't matter, and as long as you're eligible. But I mean, will the Gamecocks take a crowd to Shreveport? No. Will they take a crowd?
Will
to
anybody
Birmingham?
take a crowd to Shreveport? No. Nobody takes a crowd to
Well,
Shreveport.
who will take more of a crowd?
Nobody.
What if Florida?
Equal.
What if Florida has hired Jim McElwain and it's his first game coaching at Florida?
I don't know that. I mean, that would be very strange for him to be hired in the next week and then coach 2 weeks later. Has that ever happened?
Team player during that time.
See, it would make sense.
The basketball.
Arkansas is a 6-6 team. It would make sense for them.
Florida's
to go
not
to
going to a bowl game. Florida would probably turn down a bowl game at this point. They do not want to. They're going to try to put a staff together. They're not going to try to hodgepodge a Shreveport bowl game.
That's the one team that would travel.
Are you Jeremy Foley?
I
Did you
guarantee.
sleep with Jeremy Foley?
Guarantee.
Did you
Florida
hear Jeremy Foley say that in his sleep last night?
Yes,
yeah, we
I
were
did.
flying out to Colorado Springs together.
I
to do an interview at
say
Fort
this.
Collins.
That's the one team that will travel right now
Who's that?
to Shreveport.
Arkansas.
Arkansas.
Yeah.
Their fan
All right.
base think they've
So if
turned the corner and they're ready to roll.
So that's a 6-6 team.
Yeah, I think Arkansas.
Tennessee's going to the Belk Bowl, so that would leave South Carolina and Florida for Birmingham.
And it'll be South Carolina. Where have you seen Florida projected to go anywhere over South Carolina?
No, I mean, they're in the mix for all these teams at the bottom of the pecking order that would have all these games at the bottom of the
They're
pecking
ready
order.
for Billy Donovan's round ball guys now.
All right.
So a staff of 3 is
I'm
going to
just
coach
saying,
Florida
I'm
in the
just
Birmingham
saying.
Bowl January 3rd.
I'm just saying, and when I say I'm just saying, there could be something to it. Keep an eye out for South Carolina maybe being left at home.
They
the
can't
way this
turn
thing
down
plays.
a bowl bid, can they? SEC won't let you turn down.
I think you can.
You can.
They can't force you to go.
Especially if it interferes with exams.
What if Alabama decided?
Just
what
ask
if
Sparky.
That's
Just
just
ask
a
Sparky
sale.
Woods.
What if
Sparky
Ala-
Woods, he could say, look at my resume. I should have 2 more bowl trips on there.
What if Alabama?
Stupid exams.
What would the punishment be if Alabama said the SEC championship? We don't think we need it. We won our
I think
division.
you're required to do that. I think that's part of the Constitution, if they have one.
The Constitution, it got shredded. There is no Constitution anymore.
We go back to your phone calls. Dave in Ward. Hello, Dave. How are you?
I'm doing well. How about you all?
Man, we're doing great. Good to have you with us.
I got this question. Why on God's green earth would South Carolina want to hire Will Muschamp in anticipation of him taking over for Steve Spurrier when he couldn't win in Florida. And when South Carolina has Steve Spurrier Jr. waiting in the wings. I'll listen.
Steve Spurrier Jr.?
I don't think anybody thinks of Steve Spurrier Jr. as the heir apparent.
No. I
You
mean,
know, Will Muschamp, despite the blemishes that he received for his time at Florida, did win 11 games in one of those seasons. He's still considered a defensive guru. He's considered, recruiter.
He's only there 3 years, right? Was this or 4 years?
I think
4
it's
years.
four
But
years.
he had a ton of injuries last year. They never found a quarterback. That was one of their issues, and they just got Roper in this year, and they found Treon Harris maybe a little late and weren't able to develop him. But his players loved him. He inherited a train wreck at Florida. Was asked to clean up that program that was in the doldrums. All the guys that were arrested, he did that. He probably learned on the job a little bit. First time running a program in a pressure cooker in Gainesville. Came out on the other end of it with his integrity intact. People liked him. I think he goes and he's a defensive coordinator somewhere for a while, learns from his mistakes and gets another crack at it. And that's the way it should be.
And he's an SEC guy. He knows he's from Georgia. You know, he can recruit that state. He can recruit Alabama and Florida. He's worked at both states. And let's face it, they never really accepted Muschamp's style of play. They wanted the glamour and glitz of a Tebow-like offense or a Spurrier offense, scoring a bunch of points, and that's not the way. So they did not totally accept him, the fan base, even during the 11-win season, because he didn't do it with style and flair. And let's face it, let's look at what Rich Rod did. Rich Rod was not totally accepted at Michigan. They ran him off. Look what he's doing at Arizona now. So
impatience can come back to haunt you.
Yeah.
In many, many cases when it comes to making these decisions. Hasn't been able to really, Urban Meyer, but they made a mistake with Hoke. They got Meyer in there, but they won a couple of championships. But like you said, look at the train wreck he left behind. They bring in Muschamp. He is the hot.
You don't mean Hoke, you mean the other guy. Who was the guy they hired?
Zook. I'm sorry,
Zook.
Yeah. They bring in Muschamp, who was the hot assistant coach in the country, the head coach in waiting at Texas. You got everything at your fingertips to make yourself a winner. He got some bad breaks.
But he recruited well. He left them in better shape than
recruited well, but the injury factor was big at Florida, especially last year, and they never recovered from that into this year. They expected Driscoll to be the quarterback this year, to run this new offense with Kurt Roper, and he obviously didn't have it any longer. This was a quarterback that won 11 games 2 years before.
And if you're Steve Spurrier near South Carolina, you don't hire Will Muschamp and say that you're going to be the next coach. You'd tell me he'd have the opportunity. But I mean, I think if you are Muschamp, I think one of his faults was he was so high strung, and you can do that as a coordinator, as a defensive coordinator, but as a head coach, you have to be a little more even keel. Maybe working under Steve Spurrier for a couple of years, who's probably one of the more laid back coaches out there. He could pick up a few things, and it could, until he's throwing his visor down. But maybe that could help him. I still think it's a very long shot that he's going to be at South Carolina. I mean, I would put my money on Auburn or Texas A&M.
Here's one thing that I don't know if I agree or disagree. I'm sort of like don't know. But the fact that Spurrier came out and said, I'm going to be here 2-3 more years. That's the plan. Yeah, that sort of fits the timeline for Muschamp if he doesn't jump into a head coaching job, and maybe he goes to Tulsa.
Yeah,
maybe he sees the Tulsa job as a stepping stone.
But maybe you have to say that if you're Spurrier, don't you? This is recruiting time now, so recruits need to, not just Will Muschamp, but the 18-year-olds that you need to.
He's not ready to announce his farewell tour, but what I'm saying is 2 to 3 years kind of fits the mold of bringing in Muschamp, letting him work with you for a couple 3 years, and then if it all goes well, giving him a chance to be the man. Sports Talk here on a Tuesday night from Columbia. Good to have you with us. 800-956-7266. Don't forget, coming up a week from Saturday at Myrtle Beach, it's the 2014 Touchstone Energy Bowl. Going to have a great time there. We'll be covering it all next week for you, except for Tuesday night. Won't be there Tuesday night. I have been ordered to a family event on Tuesday night, so won't be there for that. But the rest of the week, we'll be there to cover the North-South game for you. And the game itself, a week from Saturday, airtime is at noon, kickoffs at 12:30. That's December 13th in Myrtle Beach. Get on down there and watch good high school football. Check the weather for next week. Looks like it's going to be mid-50s, maybe even tickling 60 just a little bit. So the weather should be fine. Take your golf clubs, take the wife, take the girlfriend, take them both. Go out to dinner, enjoy yourself. Stick your toes in the water. Remind yourself what summertime feels like. A lot of reasons to go to the beach, and the Touchstone Energy Bowl is just another good one. Coming up a week from Saturday, Shaw Memorial Stadium. You missed my part where I said, take your wife, take your girlfriend. Take them both.
I tried to ignore that.
Nobody
that
responded
joke
to that.
every time you go to
I think that's a good line.
That's
a
in
good
your
line. In fact, I'm going to pound that.
Yeah.
Pound, take – wait a minute. Pound, take your wife, take your girlfriend.
Take you.
You don't even realize how bad
take
that
your
is.
wife, take your
That is
girlfriend,
bad on a lot of different
No,
levels.
it doesn't,
Yeah.
because pound, I'm referring
Sound-
to the pound, the symbol
Ray
pound
Rice
on my
agrees
keyboard.
with your message.
Okay, I mean, if you want to twist it into something that it doesn't really mean,
That's a freak.
that's what's on the
Pound?
keyboard. I don't have a hashtag on my
wow.
keyboard. State Man looked up the history of hashtag, right? It was created 7 years ago. Is that
Yeah, I
right?
believe 2000. Now it's been an hour since we've talked about this, but 2007, some techie at Google,
some geek.
And the only reason he chose the formerly known as pound sign was because it was easy to access on his Nokia phone, which is probably a flip phone at the time. So that's why the symbol was chosen, simply because it was very easy to find.
Mm.
And then hashtag, he just gave it the name because it sounded techie, and that's it.
Hashtag.
I'm glad we talked about this.
I mean, why didn't he call
Mystery
him
solved.
Hash Brown? That'd be good instead of hashtag Hash Brown.
Because there's already something called a hash brown.
Well, there was
You're
so there was
probably gonna
nothing
go
called a
eat
hashtag before
covered smothered
hashtag
in
was
chunk
created.
at your favorite restaurant.
Love Waffle House. All right, back to the phones we go. Mark in Aiken, how are you? And welcome into Sports Talk.
Hey, Phil, how you gentlemen doing tonight?
We're doing great.
Listen, I got a question for you gentlemen. I've been listening to the quote-unquote experts on TV talking about the whole college playoff and, the four best teams and so forth and so on, and everybody making a case for this team or that team. Let me ask you guys a question. Do you see this thing going somewhere down the road to a conference winners only playoff? Because if you do that, you throw out all opinion, all speculation, that type of thing, not the four best teams
I
don't
have
always
been
play in the
beating
final.
that drum for years, Mark. I've been beating that drum
But
for
the
years.
problem is, what if Missouri beats Alabama in the SEC
Tough.
championship game, and you have
There should be consequences for losing.
How about last year? Okay, but there should be consequences for losing, but the reward for winning. A couple of years ago when Georgia Tech almost sprung the upset on Florida State, I think Georgia Tech was 6-6, and they got into the ACC championship game because Miami and North Carolina self-probated themselves from NCAA violations. So they win. You go, oh, Georgia Tech's in now. Okay, I mean, no, you shouldn't get in
Here's
on
the
that
problem.
reason.
Here's
It's
where
one
your
game.
argument. Here's where you'll run into a problem. It is the leagues aren't equal across the country.
Exactly.
And the fear is that a great team will not win its league championship, and a team from a weaker league will get into the championship for a chance to win the national championship, but would be an inferior team to a team that didn't win its league championship. My response to that is tough nuts.
Banana boo. But well,
all right, let's man up here.
Man
Let's
up.
accept that when you
Pound.
lose, there are consequences.
I will
Pound
say
man
this.
up.
Here's my thing, and I hate to argue nomenclature, but I'm going to do it in the first place. I think probably in the National Football League, they crowned a champion. That's their goal.
Mm-hmm.
I think college football has a slanted view of champion because they're trying to crown best team. And there's no such thing, in my opinion, because on a given day, anybody can beat anybody. So I think probably they're trying
Unless
to
you're
set up
South Carolina.
They're trying to set up a scenario where they think the best teams are going to play. And I don't think if you're going to set up an equal opportunity championship game, I don't think that's the right system. I think
you can use the computers again, though.
Only the conference champions
use the computers again. And
I
take
am
the top
all
four.
in favor of dividing the country into 8 regions, have a region champ, 8 teams go to a playoff. No committee, no computers. Whoever wins the championship goes to the playoffs. Period. End of discussion. No wild card, no Notre Dame getting extra benefits, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We'll give you the high school football report for tonight, brought to you by South Carolina Farm Bureau Insurance. And again, the 1A Division I championship game is on. It's Friday night at Benedict College. It'll be Christ Church and Bamberg Earhart. Jerome Singleton, the commissioner of the high school league, announcing this afternoon that he has completed his investigation of allegations of an ineligible player at Bamberg Earhart, and he found that there is nothing to back up that claim. So Bamberg Earhart moves on and will play Christ Church for the championship on Friday night at 7 o'clock. And then the other 3 games will be on Saturday at Williams-Brice. All right, let's finish up with your phone calls as we go to Hank in Columbia. Hi, Hank. Welcome to Sports Talk.
Hey, Phil.
Hey.
I was listening to the guy earlier with the talent gap thing. I don't understand. I know Clemson beat us this year. They recruit better than us 5 out of every 6 years. Then I don't know how they explain the 5-game winning streak. I think he has to remember those recruiting rankings. I think as long as your teams are recruiting in the top 20, you make a shot other than the Alabamas of the world that get 3 or 4 5 stars every year. It comes down to putting the team together, developing them, and coaching them. This long-standing, huge, gigantic gap, I don't think it's that far. I think both teams basically recruit around each other, and sometimes when one person decommits, you see somebody slip 3 or 4 spots.
Well, sure. And listen, I don't subscribe to recruiting rankings personally, okay? I know a lot of people out there who follow count me out. You know my feelings about that. I think South Carolina recruits well. I think Clemson recruits well. They both miss on players. I mean, you know, there are guys on Clemson's team who are highly talented who never see the field and will never see the field. They made mistakes.
I think out of
South
every
Carolina
25, I
way.
think it's eight or 10 mistakes a year
Absolutely.
out of 25.
You know, now Clemson gets some guys. They get some real shiny offensive guys. South Carolina has gotten some really shiny defensive guys in recent years. You look at the lot of defensive stars that South Carolina can count off going back to the Melvin Ingram. Go back to Melvin Ingram. And then Eric Norwood, or maybe the other way around. And then you start your Rock Hill connection with Gilmore and Holloman and Clowney. And they had a slew of outstanding defensive players, as did Clemson. Offensively, of course, Carolina had Lattimore, and they've had Alshon Jeffrey, and they got Mr. Football in Shaq Rowland, who could be a great player if he just got his head together and applied himself, and Mike Davis. And so they've had their own share of outstanding players. So, no, talent gap right now, the talent gap at quarterback going into next year will be huge.
That's the Grand Canyon of talent.
Unless the Gamecocks go get
Clemson and everybody.
Chad Kelly, or B, the quarterback at UAB.
You love Chad Kelly.
Swag. Pound swag. Have a great night. We'll see you tomorrow night here on Sports Talk.